Ever feel like no matter how good your mix is or how long you worked on it, the drums still ruin it? What if I told you that you can go from this to this in under 5 minutes? If you're a sound engineer working small to mid-sized venues and gigs with different bands in one night, or with the same band in different venues, then you already know the struggle of EQing acoustic drums. Maybe you've already figured out vocals, bass, and guitar amps, but drums, they're a different animal. They have so many sources, they all sound different, and to add even more variables, every drummer hits them differently. Yes, they are very loud, but you still need to mic them both for the room and for in-ear monitors. But somehow, after countless gigs, they either sound too muddy, too bright, or just plain too bad. Meanwhile, the bar's opening, the band's waiting, and someone is shouting, "We need sound!" In this video, you will learn fast and effective techniques to EQ drums for live gigs in under 5 minutes. Let's go. Welcome to Mixing Pixels, where we teach audio through video. If you're into live sound and want practical tips that actually work in real life, then consider subscribing to our channel. A lot of people watching are not subscribed yet to the channel, and it really helps us keep making content like this. Before I set the clock for 5 minutes, I want to make sure that you are prepared for a task like this one by knowing and understanding concepts that will help you achieve this goal. Also, I will assume that you already know how to position mics on a drum kit. If you don't, you can watch this video that we made recently. Here we go. Number 1, gain structure. This is how much volume or energy or sound goes into your mixer. This is the first step before compression, EQ, and so on. This is where you decide how much you need of that specific sound source. We usually aim to have between -18 and -12 dBs for each channel. Or if you're looking at the color meter, make sure your signal is constantly green going into yellow or orange. That usually means a good gain level. If it goes to red, the sound will clip and be distorted and horrible. If it is only green, the signal will be too weak for the sound system. You want it to be just right. Each channel needs to have the right gain structure even before you EQ or even before you give it volume on the PA. Number 2, the audio spectrum analyzer. This is a graphical representation of what is happening to each channel in terms of frequencies. This is where you read if a sound is in the low, mid, or high area. For example, a kick drum will tell you that its sound is predominantly in the low and mid area, while a hi-hat will tell you that its sound is predominantly in the high area of the audio spectrum analyzer. Why is it important to know this? Because if you know that a hi-hat has very little information in the low area, then you can easily cut or pass that area so that you don't get any unwanted sounds and your hi-hats sound more precise. Number 3, cutting and boosting. This is done in the audio spectrum analyzer. You cut frequencies by pushing a certain area under the line. That reduces or takes away how much of those frequencies are in that particular channel. For example, on the tom, I can reduce the amount of mid frequencies by pushing down that area. Boosting will be the opposite. I would bring up a certain area in the audio spectrum analyzer so that those frequencies are more present in that channel. Pro tip: as a rule of thumb, you always cut before you boost. Chances are that your sound improves only by cutting annoying frequencies. Number 4, the fundamental note or frequency. This is applied specifically to toms. Every tom sounds differently not only because of the brand, but also because of the wood, the length, the age, and so on. Each drum resonates more at a certain area of the audio spectrum analyzer. This area is called the tom's fundamental. It's the one that is resonating more. Now, pay attention to this because I have a feeling I'm going to cause divided opinions in this matter. A lot of engineers will tell you, find the fundamental of the tom and boost it some dBs. That is great advice, but that mostly works in nice venues, recording studios, or acoustically well-treated rooms. But in my experience, when you do sound in pubs, bars, and in places where you shouldn't have a live band because of the nature of the room, boosting the fundamental of the tom will cause more problems. And by problems, I mean low frequency feedbacks and humps. What I recommend is know how to find the fundamental of the tom and EQ accordingly. Use your ears. If it sounds like you can boost it, then do it. If not, cut it until the problem is no longer there. And the last caveat that I will mention about EQ in drums is, I will be naming a lot of frequencies during this process. I don't expect you to use the very same frequency for you to get amazing results. The number is to get you as close as possible to that sweet spot, which could be a little bit more to the left or a little bit more to the right. It is only a starting point to get you there. The rest is up to you and your ears. Let's get the clock going, and under 5 minutes, we will EQ each part of the drums. I will be using the X32 rack and its software on a computer. Ready? Let's go. First, I will start with the kick drum, and I will start with a high pass filter, and I'm gonna place it around 50 Hertz. If I need more, I will add more, but for now I wanna place it on 50. Next, I'm gonna boost some dBs at around between 80 and 100. This will make you feel the kick in your chest. So around this area. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut between 150 and 250 Hertz to remove the mud of your mix so that the low frequencies can go and cut through more in the mix. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do another cut between 300 and 600 Hertz. This is gonna reduce the boxiness, what makes the kick sound like a box or plastic. Next, I'm gonna boost between 2 and 4 kilohertz, and that's gonna give me that clicky sound, that attack of the kick drum. Depending on the venue, sometimes I could boost after 10K, but I only do it if I don't have a lot of bleeding from the cymbals, and it sounds like this. Second, the snare. Always start with a high pass filter so that you don't get any unwanted sounds, and do it until you don't lose body of the snare. Next, I'm gonna boost between 150 and 200 Hertz, and this will give body to your snare. Next, I'm gonna cut in the 600 Hertz area to get rid of that plastic boxy sound. I did a little bit more after 600. Next, I'm gonna boost or cut at the 900 Hertz area, and depending on the venue, I do the boosting or the cutting. Sometimes it helps or it hinders your sound. Let's see how it sounds. In this case, it helps to cut. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to boost in the 5 kilohertz area just to add crispness or clearness to the snare. That did it. Third, the hats. And the only thing I'm going to do to them is I'm going to do a high pass filter at around 300, 350 hertz. I don't want any low information on my hats. I only want hats and their sizzly sound. Fourth, the toms. Now, you need to remember that all toms sound differently and they come in different sizes as well. So keep that in mind when you EQ them. Once again, I'm going to start with a high pass filter and I will roll it until I don't lose the body of the tom. The next thing is I'm going to do some boosting. If it's a floor tom, I boost between 80 and 100 hertz. If it's a rack tom, like a 12-inch or a 13-inch, I will boost between 150 and 200 hertz. And if it's a smaller tom, I will do some boosting around the area of 200 to 300 hertz. So this is a floor tom, so I will be between 80 and 100. Now I'm going to get rid of all that boxiness, all that makes it sound like a cardboard. And that's going to be between 300 and 600 hertz. Now I'm going to add some attack to that floor tom, and I'm going to do some boosting between 5 and 7 kilohertz. Nice. Remember a conversation about the fundamental of the toms? This is where it comes handy. What I do is that I find the fundamental and I boost it to see what it does to my sound. Like I said before, in my experience in small venues like bars and pubs, I end up cutting the fundamental just to avoid low-end feedback. But in bigger or sound-treated rooms, I end up boosting the fundamental. So let's do what it does to our sound here. So the fundamental will be the one that is resonating more in the audio spectrum analyzer. And you can see it there, right at 90, 91. And because we're not using big subwoofers right now or we're not in a pub, I am boosting it. Like you can see, it adds a lot to the sound. But if it was creating problems, I will be cutting some dBs on that fundamental, like this. Now here sounds weak, but when you are using subwoofers and other in a venue, you get enough of low end. I'm gonna go back. Fifth, the overheads. In a previous video, I mentioned that when working with overheads, you need to choose between two approaches. A, do I want cymbals and only cymbals in my overheads? Or B, do I want the whole kit in the overheads? For live sound, I would recommend to use the first approach of cymbals and only cymbals in your overheads. Although it is nice to have the whole kit in the overheads, the reality is that most people are playing bars, pubs, wedding rooms that are not acoustically well treated. And to put the whole kit in the overheads creates more problems. So I'm going to take the same approach as I did with the hats. I'm going to do a high pass filter around 300 and 350 hertz. So I'm going to bring the high pass filter to 300 or 350 hertz. Also, I'm going to boost at around 10 kilohertz or above just to give more sizzle to the cymbals, for them to be more present. Sometimes I cut at around 900 hertz just to get rid of the muddy sound. Let's see if I need to do it here. In this case, it helps. Now, remember our conversation about the two approaches on overheads? Let's see how it sounds when I don't do the high pass filter on these overheads. In this case, it sounds really nice, so I would consider using the whole kit in these overheads. And this is how the whole kit sounds with all the EQs that we applied. So there you have it. This is how EQ drums quickly and effectively in under 5 minutes. Now, is the sound completely perfect? Can it be better? Yes, it's not completely perfect, but this gets me started and I will be fixing the rest during the live gig. So why don't you try this at your next gig and let us know how it went for you. Also, do you find yourself cutting other frequencies on specific drums? Do you struggle with other EQ issues on drums not mentioned here? Let us know in the comments. And remember, great sound is always within your reach.